Dan and Amy, and our next guest is making quite a splash on the Chicago political scene in just a few weeks, just by filing to run for Alderman in the 13th Ward. David Krupa, 19-year-old DePaul University freshman, has accomplished more than Madigan and Marty Quinn have accomplished in 55 years collectively on the dole. He's done something that I didn't think could be done.
What's that?
Marty Quinn, as you know, is a professional mime. He doesn't speak. He's the only professional mime on the city council that I'm aware of. He has gotten both Marty Quinn and Madigan mob attorney Mike Casper to actually go on the record.
To speak to the media?
Yeah. Marty Quinn had to defend, if you haven't seen it, this curious case of challenging David Krupa's nominating petitions that he filed and coming up with about 1,000 more revocations than signatures actually filed by Krupa, only of 183 of which were actual signatories on Krupa's petition. So the upshot of it is the 13th Ward Democrat organization, headed by Mike Madigan, committed what looks to be massive voter fraud by getting people by hook or by crook to perjure themselves by signing an affidavit that is subject to perjury charges if you file a false affidavit. Signing an affidavit that say they didn't sign a petition that most of them didn't sign in the first place.
I see what you did there.
And
I see what they did.
But Marty Quinn...
Well, he took one question and then he ran away from the media.
Here's the real issue.
Yes.
The real issue isn't our voter fraud. The real issue is David Krupa.
I don't think that any alderman, except for maybe Ed Burke, has the organization.
Well, that's David Krupa, right? Talking about 13th Ward organization.
As the 19-year-old.
We'll have to effort what Marty Quinn said. Okay, anyway, the upshot of it is he blamed Trump, because that's your get-out-of-jail-free card, literally in this case. Just blame Trump. David Krupa was a Trump supporter, so how could David Krupa get legitimate signatures in my ward, was essentially Quinn's argument before he scurried back to his office. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by aldermanic candidate, ? David Krupa. David, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you for having me on.
So before we get into all of the intrigue, where does the matter stand right now in terms of your candidacy?
Well, right now we motion for a dismissal, and we have a hearing on Saturday at 1 p.m., and we're going to present all of our information there and try and get this whole thing thrown out on the grounds of mass election fraud.
Oh. How did you find out about this?
Well, that's the funny thing. We wouldn't have found out unless we filed with the Freedom of Information Act and received these revocations ahead of time, because otherwise we would have never known about the thousands that they filed that were no good. My lawyer was smart enough. He's a really good attorney to file with the Freedom of Information Act, and we received that information.
And why are you doing this in the first place? I mean, look at how good these public servants have been to you. They let you go to DePaul. They let you drive a forklift. Why isn't that enough?
Well, every great democracy should have options. Our local democracy has not had an option on its ballot in 30 years. And it's because every election, people get taken off the ballot by something much bigger than themselves, something much bigger than their opponents. They get taken off by an organization. And it's really an organization that's corrupting democracy. And I just want to stay on the ballot for the fundamental reason that we should have an option. And I think the people deserve it, and they certainly want to vote for another option.
So tell us about the threats you've been getting. Have you been getting death threats or text messages? What has life been like for you lately?
Well, I've certainly gotten a lot of hate on social media, or at least in my messages. There are a couple of people who wish me nothing but the worst, and then one of the most surprising ones was my precinct captain. My precinct captain found me out walking on my block one day saying hi to my neighbors, and he came up behind me and said, "Hey, you got a bright future and you're a good kid, but I'd hate to see something bad happen to you. And I said, excuse me? And he said, no, nothing. I just don't want to see you get hurt. And so, right away I went and filed a police report about that because I take it pretty seriously.
Well, I mean, he's obviously your guardian angel. I mean, you just can't take help, David. That's your problem there. All those people that are trying to help you, Marty Quinn, your precinct captain, all the good people, all the good people of the 13th Ward. So when you did gather your 1,700 odd signatures, what was the reaction? Were people afraid to sign your petitions when you said, can you please sign my petition? I'm running for alderman in the 13th Ward. What did they say?
Well, we had a lot of people who said, "I'm sorry, I can't sign it." They would not give me anything if I signed your petition. Some other people said, "Hey, I'm a city worker, I'm afraid to sign it." But we got a lot of people who said, "You know what? Last election, they told me I would get a pothole fixed or a street light fixed if I signed their petition, and nothing happened. So you know what? Let me sign yours." And we got a lot of that support across the whole ward. And I like how he said, "I don't know how he got 1,700 signatures. If he wasn't going around and scaring people into not signing, we probably would have gotten closer to 3,000.
So what has he been telling people when they come in and get those signatures saying, null and voiding the signature that they gave you? What's the story that they give them?
Well, some people, they were told that it was just verifying their signature, whatever that means. But really, it was effectively taking their signature off my petition. Another case, they told them it was for just making sure that I don't use his signature fraudulently, which that doesn't make any sense either. And then they were saying also to some people, you sign both petitions, that's illegal. If you don't sign this, then you could possibly go to jail. You need to sign this to make sure you don't go to jail.
What did
They'll stop at nothing. Huh?
What are the kids saying at DePaul? What are your classmates saying? I don't know. Maybe they have some friends that are also politically active. What do they say?
I do have quite a few friends who are very politically active at DePaul. They're rooting me on. They've got their own internships and stuff going on with different politicians, and so I respect that they don't have the time to help me on my campaign, but they certainly support me in this, and they wish me all the best.
Have you met Marty Quinn before?
I've seen him around a couple of times. I only met him once. It was an interesting meeting.
Well, what happened?
How's that? Yeah.
Hello.
Him and my precinct captain were walking down my block. They had been on my block 5 times in the past week, telling my neighbors not to talk to me, not to sign anything. And so I was sitting out on the porch with my girlfriend, and I seen him walking down the block, so I waved, and the precinct captain looked at me, and then he looked, and Marty got his attention. Marty looked at me, and I waved again. They came walking over.
Uh-oh.
And I shook his hand, and I said, "Hey, Marty, how's it going?" He says, "Oh, it's going good. How about you?" I said, "It's going good." He said, "So what are you up to?" I said, "Oh, just running for alderman, And he said, "Oh, yeah, that's nice. That's nice."
Mm-hmm.
And then I looked at Paul, and I said, my precinct captain, and I said, "Hey, you've been on my block 5 times this past week, and there's not many signs in the windows. It looks like you're having a hard time." Oh, boy, the way they both got red and flustered, it was unbelievably funny.
And and then when did you, at what point did your girlfriend then kick the snot out of both of them? I know that's too easy for you, so I figure you let your girlfriend take care of that.
Well, she was too busy laughing at him to even worry about that kind of stuff. So,
well, that's even better than fists.
What's the story like in the 13th Ward? You got the most powerful man in the state as the head of the ward organization, and then you got his toadies like Marty Quinn bouncing around doing his bidding. But I mean, it should be, I guess, something approximating heaven on earth with Madigan in charge over there, right?
Well, no. As a matter of fact, we've got a lot of issues. We've got security issues. We've got property taxes are an issue, and of course, our infrastructure is an issue. And one of the things that I want to do if I get in is I want to make sure that we receive more police presence, more police patrolling at night to make sure that we don't get our cars broken into, make sure that nothing gets stolen, and as for infrastructure, all of our streets are pretty much getting torn up and repaired every year. But it's not because they're repairing the roads; it's because they're putting in new sewers, new electrical, new this, new that. But they don't do it all at one time. It's very poor city planning. I think that Speaker Madigan and Marty Quinn have way too much on their mind to be focusing on our ward, and it's causing them to save all this stuff to the last possible minute, and it really inconveniences us here. People aren't happy.
So, David, I want you to listen to Marty Quinn. This is what he had to say about you.
So I guess the better question is a self-described day one Trump supporter gets 1,700 signatures in the 13th ward without being disingenuous? That's the question that comes to my mind. Have a good day, guys.
So, day one, a Trump supporter. Are you a President Trump supporter?
Well, in 2016, I really supported change to our political system, as I do now. President Trump was up against a candidate that was what I believed not going to bring that change, and he had promised it. And so that's why I supported him in 2016. And now he's the president. So I certainly don't want to see him do bad, because if he does bad, the country does bad.
Can you help me understand something? Because I don't get it. I'm not as smart as Marty Quinn. What does who you supported for president have to do with the quality of the signatures you got on your petitions?
Well, I don't know. I think, between you and me, I think that they're looking for any reason to say that I fraudulently got my signatures somehow, like I forged all those signatures. This was one of the areas in Chicago a lot of people voted red in 2016. So he pretty much alienated a third of his constituency when he said that. I couldn't believe it. But it was really just. Go ahead.
Are you and your election attorney, are you going to move on these guys? Because I assume, and I think you mentioned, maybe it was on WGN, that you have friends who were lied to sign these revocation affidavits that were being passed around by Madigan and Marty and their goons. So you essentially know people who were frauded and coaxed into committing perjury. And so there is a way to get those same individuals to sign affidavits describing what happened that implicate at least the person who got them to sign the affidavit, if not up the food chain to Quinn and Madigan.
Right. And so I've had a couple for sure longtime family friends who have signed these things. When I was going through them and I came across their signature, and I said, I can't believe she signed that. And so I called her up and I said, hey, did you know that you signed to take your signature off my petition? And they didn't even know what I was talking about, which means that when it was brought to them, they told them it was for something else. Mm-hmm. So we're certainly going to go after that. And the amount of fraud and perjury that these guys tricked my neighbors into doing is unbelievable, and it's very, very disgusting. And it could certainly lead to a federal lawsuit. There's a lot of felonies here. Yeah.
More than that, I mean, I would, and I know you've got an experienced election attorney, but I mean, if once you pull together that evidence, I think it might be something that you should at least see if there's any interest at, I don't know, the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, 219 South Dearborn, where the U.S. Attorney has his offices. Is that something that's under consideration?
Yeah, it is, because we don't think we can. I mean, we can try going to the state's attorney and the Illinois Attorney General, and some of the courts in Illinois. But but you know what I mean? It's like Madigan's daughter is the Illinois Attorney General.
Yeah.
Right. You don't think she'd prosecute her father, do you? Yeah.
I don't know. I certainly don't want to put her honor on the line, but
no.
It would be very, I think, a conflict of interest, for a lot of people.
Yes.
Why we shouldn't have voted her in the first place.
No, it's definitely a conflict of interest for Democrats to prosecute Democrats. There's no question about it, which is why you need to go to 219 South Dearborn when you pull this evidence together. All right, well, we're going to be interested to follow your story as it winds its way through the Star Chambers and maybe even some legitimate outposts of law enforcement. David Krupa, he's a candidate for 13th Ward Alderman. How do people get a hold of you, David? A website or social media? Where should they go?
So if they want, I've got a website up. It's davidkrupa.com. There is a place to contribute there, and there's also a place to send us an email and say your piece. We also have a Facebook page, David Krupa for Alderman-13th Ward. And if anybody wanted to directly email me, my email is david@davidkrupa.com. and I encourage anybody to email me whatever sentiments that they want me to share with Speaker Madigan and Marty Quinn.
Very good. David at davidkrupa, KRUPA.com, and davidkrupa.com is the website. Congratulations on what you're doing, standing up to these thugs. It's inspiring in a place that needs some inspiration, and good luck with your candidacy. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer.